y'all, it's Heather, and I'm so excited because we are going to go through my entire eyeshadow palette collection today. We're going to go through everything year by year. I got to thinking about this when certain palettes came out because I have these two Clinique duos that I want to show you. First of all, I got these back in 2005, I think, but we're gonna go with 2006 because I know for sure I wore this in 2006 on my wedding day. This is a green duo from Clinique, and of course I don't use it anymore. It's too old for that, but it makes me happy to look at it. And I also have a purple one. I was loving these things. I love makeup. I think it's fun. I have decluttered some over the years, of course. I've gotten rid of some palettes, but overall I don't declutter a lot. I like to keep my things. They make me happy. Even if some of these really old products I don't use anymore, it brings back memories to see them. So I thought it would be fun to go through my collection year by year, show you what I have, give you some little quick, even one-sentence reviews on these palettes, and I would love to hear what you have. If I have it, if I don't have something that you're like, girl, I can't believe you don't have this, I want to talk about makeup with y'all. I am so excited. Let me show you my collection. This is the Urban Decay Naked palette. This launched all the way back in 2010, and it changed the makeup game, really. Like, everybody was talking about this palette. I loved it. But tell me, can you believe that in 2011, Tarte did a palette like this? They collabed with True Blood, and I bought it. I loved it. I love the show True Blood. 2013, I got the Naked 3 palette. I've since gotten rid of the Naked 2 and the rest of the Naked palettes, but the OG I had to keep. This is the Cinderella collab with MAC when the live-action movie came out. Carly Bible and her BH palette. This kind of started my love for BH. I think this palette was so high quality, and I can see why it kept selling out. But 2016 was ABH for me. The original Makeup by Mario palette, so basic, but so beautiful. Modern Renaissance was that girl for so long, y'all. You see, I hit pan on that burnt orange shade. So good. But the Too Faced Peach palette, like, you had to be there. This palette was selling out like crazy. I was so happy to have it, and I wore it all the time. Morphe 35E, who remembers these massive palettes? I don't know why I keep this in my collection. I guess just for the memories. There's something about seeing it that just transports me back to 2016. Alice Through the Looking Glass, Urban Decay. They used to do the funnest palettes, and now they've gotten in this like rut. I don't know what they're doing over at Urban Decay. This palette though was so fun. Look at this like neutral with pops of color story. It's cool. Subculture in 2017. This palette, I mean, when we talk about like viral products that everybody was talking about, we have to talk about Subculture, right? I still bought Prism. It was ABH's holiday launch, and I love it. Look at that neon. It was fun. It was a fun moment in time. This is Pat McGrath Mothership palette from 2017. Beautiful color story. Dark, deep, purple, green. I'm still here for it, honestly. Her palettes are amazing. ColourPop, Kathleen Light's Dream Street. Did anybody else buy all of Kathleen Light's ColourPop collabs? Because you're going to see more coming up later in the video. This is the Saharan by Juvia's Place. They make beautiful pigmented eyeshadows. This is a beautiful neutral-esque type of palette with the red orangey shades. Really gorgeous. I think Juvia's Place makes good shadows. This is from Kylie Cosmetics. Please tell me somebody here still has this palette, because I don't know. It brings back memories. I keep it. I never use it. It's so old. But when Carly Bible dropped the deluxe edition of her BH palette, I bought it so fast. I had so many of my friends and families members like buying this palette because I'm like, it's so good. But the Jaclyn Hill palette, this is like the first one she did, her big one with Morphe. I got it at launch date. My sister-in-law had an alarm set to get these for us, and I treasure it. In 2018, Norvina from ABH released. This is before the whole Norvina line, and I really loved this palette. It was pretty light in tone, but I really enjoyed it. Then we had Soft Glam. This is still a classic, I think. A lot of people still love this palette. It goes from very light to very dark, but I was always shocked that Sultry never made a comeback because this is a very cool toned neutral palette for ABH and it fit their line well. But who remembers Morphe Jaclyn Hill The Vault collection? I actually got these for my birthday and I did not have any quality issues with these that I know a lot of people had. Mine performed well always. This one was probably my favorite one. Obviously it has the green shades, it has some neutrals. The greens were calling to me, what can I say? But I also really loved this one. I mean, look at these warm tones, like the oranges, say less. I enjoyed these a lot. This one was more of the pinky, purpley, mauve one. I know this one was super popular and a lot of people liked it, but yeah, the quality of mine was good. I never had any issues. This is Larlie Los Angeles Nudie Patootie palette. Look at these neutral tones. This is still very much Larlie's aesthetic. I think it's very pretty. I had a good time with this one, but KKW Beauty had a collaboration with Mario before Mario had his own brand, and obviously I love this. Like, do you see how dirty my pans are? In this collection, I didn't want to like clean anything up. I just wanted to show you. Dose of Colors used to be that brand that did such good stuff. This is an I Love Sarah E collaboration. Absolutely, absolutely beautiful palette. But Friendcation, oh, I miss the times. I miss the times when Dose of Colors was doing stuff like this because this was a palette that was just good. The textures were good. The shadows were good. It worked beautifully. This is the only palette I have from Sosu, and this is a collab with Kaylee. Kaylee actually has her own makeup brand now, but they made the Urban Bible together, and there was some controversy because years after this collab sold out, everything like that, Sosu brought the palette back, but took her name off of it. It was a whole thing. I think they resolved it, but I remember Shayla ColourPop Perception palette. I think this is one of my first ColourPop palettes because I had to have it. I loved Makeup Shayla. I think she is absolutely gorgeous and I needed her palette. Oden's Eye Freya. They don't make this palette anymore, but I keep it for the memories. It's warm. What can I say? This is one of my most prized possessions though. The Greek Goddess palette from Lunar Beauty. And I have the highlighter palette, y'all. I love Lunar Beauty. I love mythology, myths, legends, stories, everything. Of course, Lunar Beauty makes great quality makeup, but man, I love this one. Be Perfect Carnival is one of the reasons I love color. I remember trying this palette thinking, wow, this is how colorful shadows should perform and I want to wear it every day. Emily Noel and Makeup Revolution. I love Emily Noel. I love her channel. I bought this palette for myself, used it, and went and bought one for my mom because I'm like, it's an all-in-one palette. I thought she would really enjoy it, and I think it's pretty. This is the Once palette from Emily, meaning it's like what you want, extra shades. And I thought that was such a cute concept. I have another Pat McGrath palette, this one with some more color. This was the All Shimmer palette. I think it's Decadence. This is ColourPop, the Disney Designer Collection. It's a princess thing. Neutral, pinky, very cute. But the Tribe from Juvia's, I'm so sad that they discontinued this because I think this is one of their best, very cool, different color story. Then we have Natasha, Denona, Lila, I don't know. You know, I don't know. But let's talk about Melt. I love Melt. This is Smoke Sessions, and the shadows in here are very tender. Like, you have to be gentle with them. They break easy. And this is the original Gemini from 2018. I do have the remastered. We'll see that coming up soon. ABH and Carly Bible. This palette was really beautiful. Very shimmer heavy, but I think it's very Carly. So I really enjoyed this one. But one of my favorite palettes from ABH of all time is the Jackie Aina palette. I love the pinks and purples. I love that we have the warm neutral side. I think she did really good. This is the first palette from the Norvina brand. This is the only one from the whole Norvina line that I purchased, and I did really enjoy this one. I still do. Strawberry Dream. This is another palette where I remember using this and thinking, this is how you do colorful matte shades. Such good quality. And yes, I bought the Tati Beauty palette. I think Tati nailed the quality of this palette. I would still use it if I knew I could replace it. There's something about it though, like I just want to keep it, love it, and I don't want to mess it up. Be Perfect Carnival XL. I love the Carnival palettes. You're going to see lots of them through the years in my collection because I enjoy the way they do color. This is Flower Beauty Jungle Lights. So this is Drew Barrymore's line, brand, whatever. And these are all metallic shadows. They're intense. They're beautiful. I really like these palettes. They are kind of expensive for a drugstore brand. Kathleen Light's So Jaded with ColourPop. I wish this were permanent to the line because this is an interesting color story from ColourPop and all of the shades are really good quality. I love Sarah E and ColourPop through my eyes. Please let me know if you have this palette because it's a good one. The oranges, the yellows, it's beautiful. Another Kathleen Light's collab in the Zodiac palette. This one is another neutral pop of color type of palette. Really beautiful, very user-friendly, I think. Midnight Masquerade from ColourPop. Listen, I love ColourPop and Disney, okay? I will buy it if they make it. Sign me up, take my money. You know how it goes. But one of my biggest regrets in life, that's being dramatic, but seriously, is not buying the entire Villains collection. But I do have the palette, so I'm happy about that. Let's talk about Kaleidos Cyber Bronze, I think this is called. They don't make it anymore, so it really doesn't matter what it's called. But I have to swatch the silver for y'all. I can't help myself. I open the palette, I have to swatch the silver because bam, look at that. Don't play with me. It's amazing. KKW and Mario did another palette together. So this is, again, before he had his brand, they made this palette together. It's beautiful. It's glam. It's exactly what you would expect from the two of them. This is Nomad Tokyo palette. I'm not sure if this one is still available or not, but it's such a cute pastel palette. And it has some satin shades, which I really enjoy. MAC Maleficent. I love a MAC Disney collab. Again, I don't know why. I love a Disney collab. This is the Magic Mini by Juvia's Place. I never bought the full Magic. It was huge, but the Magic Mini really worked well for me. Like it did what it needed to do. Moonspell from Lunar Beauty. Lunar Beauty, they kill it with the packaging. They do. They cannot be beat. And this palette is another one that I'm like so happy to own. I just love it. It's beautiful. I love to look at it. The Urban Decay Game of Thrones palette. It has an actual throne in it. Remember when Urban Decay did this fun, creative stuff? I know it's over the top. I know it's unnecessary, but it's fabulous and I love it. And look at this. Look at this. I love it. I have two of these. I do have one in pristine condition. Let's talk about Sigma Enchanted. I'm sorry, you're going to keep seeing my light in the palettes because they're shiny and it's just hard to not get the light when I'm showing you these overhead type of videos. But I figure you don't mind. It's just fun to see the sparkle and I want you to really be able to see everything. Melt Vida y Muerte. This collection. Oh my gosh, this collection. It's so perfect. It is one of the best things Melt ever did. I loved the theme. I loved everything about this collection. I just think it is so incredibly special. But Natasha Denona Metropolis, this is the palette that made me fall in love with Natasha Denona. This is the palette where I'm like, take my money, whatever it is, give it to me. I need it. 2020, we have the Sweet Shop collection from BH Cosmetics. 6 palettes and they all stack up to make an ice cream cone, which I think is adorable. But these palettes were actually really great quality too, which is phenomenal at this price point. I love this neutral palette, but I think the pistachio palette is so cute. I love greens, so that's probably not surprising, but I love it. I think the mix of mattes and metallic shimmer shades was really, really great in this collection. The bubblegum palette was super popular, and I think that's because blues are really easy to get wrong, and when you find a good blue matte, it's like life-changing. I'm being dramatic. The Cotton Candy palette was probably my least favorite just because it's all very mid-tone, whereas I felt like the other palettes had a little bit more depth, but I still really like this for what it is. It is light shades. The Orange Sorbet palette, also really good. Orange tones. I love that they gave like a orangey brown type of color as well. I think that made the palette a little more versatile. Aside from the green palette, Cherry on Top may have been my favorite because I love a good red shadow, and I like that they mixed up the reds and the pinks in this palette. NYX Ultimate Utopia. This is a great palette. I didn't show you the front because it's just clear and you don't want just light blinding you, but look at that swatch. It's so pretty. This is the Urban Decay Get Stoned. This is such fun packaging, and the inside was really fun at the time too. It's definitely like a shadow formula that was nice for then, but it's improved since now. This is the Charlotte Tilbury Bejeweled Eyes or something like that. My friend Karen Harris gave me this, and I am so thankful for it. I love it. I think it's really pretty shadows, but the ABH Amrezy palette is one of my favorites from the brand. Amrezy knows makeup, and it's obvious when she put this color story together that she was thinking of looks and glam looks, and I love that. BH Naughty palette. This brings back memories for me. BH, they were just so good during this time period. Like, they really were. Beauty Bay Book of Magic. I feel like this is the palette that got away for a lot of people because we love these purples and blues and browns together, but the Carnival 3 from Be Perfect, Stacey Marie and Be Perfect, they just work so well together. And I thought this was a great Carnival palette from them because it's such bright shades, like vibrant neons. The Jolie Beauty Sorceress palette is what started my love with the brand. I still think this is one of their best palettes, one of their best formulas. This brand right here, Glam Shop, I'm not even going to try to say the name of the palette because I don't speak Polish. This is a Polish indie brand, and it's a really beautiful palette. This right here, I keep just for the packaging. It's ZZ and the British Museum for an Alice in Wonderland palette. The quality in here, I can make it work. They're definitely sheer shadows, but I just love the packaging. I have the first and only eyeshadow palette from BK Beauty. This was very soft, very pretty, very easy. And then we have Tiny Marvels, which is Sydney Grace and Mel Thompson. I absolutely love and treasure this palette so much. I think Mel did a beautiful job with this one, and I believe Sydney Grace still sells it and gives the proceeds to her family. This is the Oden's Eye Soulmon palette. They don't make this anymore. It's an older palette from Oden's Eye, but I love it. We're still in 2020 and we're going to look at some ColourPop palettes. This is The Child. Then I have Raw Beauty Kristi at Forest Sight. So pretty. Really a great palette from ColourPop. This is Pretty Guardian, a Sailor Moon collab. This is the first collaboration they did with Sailor Moon, and really pretty. After this, Mulan. I think this is one of ColourPop's best palettes ever. I think it's a beautiful, beautiful neutral palette, and I honestly think they should restock this one a couple of times because I think a lot of people would really like this. But the Hocus Pocus palette, I treasure this one. I bought it at the initial launch. I think it's such a great color story. I think it's Hocus Pocus all in a palette. But let's talk about Lunar Beauty, the Eternal Eclipse palette. Y'all know my love of Lunar Beauty. I think the quality is just so good. The packaging is just so good. And this one is just so good. The Nabla Side by Side palette. This is really pretty because you have warm tones and you have cool tones. You have some really beautiful shimmer shades in here. But my friend Betty Jean collabed with Shroud Cosmetics to make the It's Freaking Bats palette, and it's beautiful. BH Cosmetics was still on a roll, y'all. Still on a roll with this Blueberry Muffin palette. Such a high quality palette. I loved this kind of like brunch series. They also had Avocado Toast. I thought this one was really good too. Kind of a green palette with a mix of shades. And then the Mimosa palette, I really enjoyed this one. I wish it did have at least one or two dark shades, but I understand a light palette. And Rebel Rouge Labs, Howlin' For You. I bought this palette off Etsy way back then. It has a pressed glitter, but it's a really, really pretty palette. Pat McGrath Labs Divine Rose 2. I bought it in the limited edition pink packaging. I don't know if they still make it in this packaging, but I love limited edition stuff, so I was happy to get this. This was her first holiday palette that she did in this big format. She didn't include her special shades in here, but even her non-special shades are really good quality. This collection from Oden's Eye, I love Oden's Eye, y'all. These mini palettes are so pretty. This was the forest one, I believe, and then this one was the sky. I may be getting them confused. confused, but really, really pretty. And then this one is the sea, right? Or yeah, the ocean. And it's a mini palette. I think it's cute. I enjoy mini palettes, but the Alpha 2 is what made me fall in love with Oden's Eye. This palette, it's just fun. It's light, it's bright, it's pretty. I enjoy it. And then the Alpha 2, I think this is the palette that really got a lot of people interested in Oden's Eye in the first place because it was these beautiful romantic mauve-y tones. But did y'all know that Bailey Sarian had a collaboration palette before her collab palette with Melt, which we'll see soon? This is Venice Fling, and this is a collab with Estate Cosmetics. Let's talk about Juvia's Place, though. The Wahala palette. So beautiful. Juvia's Place, they make pigmented shadows, but the Wahala 2 was really special, I think, because there's a multi-chrome in this palette. This NARS quad is really cute, really easy, really effortless, kind of basic, but pretty. Now, the Melissa palette from Juvia's Place, one of the best they've ever done. I'm not even playing. This one and the next one, the Fumi Disco Party. This quad is so good. These launched together and they were here and gone, and I just wish they would have came back. But let's talk about Melt Beetlejuice. I can't. I will always love these. I will always love these. The quality, phenomenal. I know the shades look similar, but I promise they all have a purpose and they're different, okay? This is the Escape Bod from Kaleidos. I love Kaleidos shadows. I wish they would bring some color back to their line because this palette is so good. They do color so well. NYX Netflix Sabrina. I bought this palette. I fell in love with the quality. I think this is some of the best shadows NYX has ever made. I tried to buy a backup, but it sold out so fast. I could never get my hands on another one. GlamLite Ice Cream Dream. I don't think they make this palette anymore. I love that the sprinkles kind of shake on the front. This was my favorite pastel palette for a long time, and it's just a really, really good palette. Melt 420. Y'all know Melt Cosmetics loves 420. They love it, okay? They love it. We're going to keep seeing it. Let's talk about the Natasha Denona Bronze. I'm just going to show you the inside of some of these Natasha palettes because she does this shiny packaging. I don't want to blind you. This is the Love palette. I love Natasha Denona. You're not going to hear me say a bad word about her. This is the Glam palette. It is so cool toned on my warm skin, but I love it. One of my favorite palettes from her ever is the Trio Chrome palette. Look at it. Just look at it. The quality is amazing. I love this palette so, so much. And now we're going to talk about some Sigma. This is the Essentials palette. This is a collaboration with Stephanie Lang. I did not love that it had those cheek colors in there, but I still like the palette. We have the mini Cor de Rosa, and then we have the full Cor de Rosa. I love these shades. It's beautiful. I can see it as a spring palette. I can see it as a fall palette. It really just fits everything, and the quality is so, so good. This is the Warm Neutrals palette from Sigma, and it definitely has those beautiful warm tones. I think a lot of people will really get on with this palette. The quality is great. And then we have Untamed. This palette I also really like. This was one of my first purchases from Sigma because the color story called to me. Like that dark green and that mustard don't even play. BH Cosmetics Amethyst. BH did this whole Birthstone series thing. They dropped a new palette on the first of every month, and I thought that was such a fun concept. The quality of these palettes were so good. I got rid of 2 of the months, so I only have 10, but they were just great. There were only a couple of shades overall, if I'm looking at all 12 palettes, that weren't like amazing, but even the shades that weren't amazing were still really good. I just thought this was a fun concept. The palettes were only $8 US, so it was fun. I looked forward to it. I did a video on every single one of these every month. I just had fun with it. This one from August, so good. Look at the color story that BH did. I just think they were on a creative roll here. They really were, and I'm so sad that they're gone now. Sapphire was one of my favorites. This is actually my birthstone, and surprise, surprise, there's a beautiful green in there. The only downside to these is that there was a pressed glitter, and I don't love the BH Cosmetics pressed glitters. I'm not like a pressed glitter hater. I could take or leave it, but these were pretty bad quality. So it was more so like you were buying 6 shadows, which for $8 I felt comfortable with, especially at such an amazing price point and such a beautiful color story. I mean, they really did a good job with these. This is the BH Say It collection, and the quality of these were amazing, but the packaging was terrible. Like, terrible. You kind of had to like flip it, so it was like, oh, if you open the palette, whoever's reading it reads something funny, but it wasn't funny. It was a little more cringe, and I think it just turned a lot of people off to the palettes, which kind of stinks because the quality of the shadows inside were so good and are still so good. That's why I still have these palettes, and I'm pretty sure these are still available. I'm gonna link everything I can in the description box to the brands, whatever. I'll tag it in the YouTube shopping, and I'm trying to pop codes on the screen if I have them, all of that. If any of these color stories interest you and you can get your hands on these, I would definitely recommend them. They're just really good. This is the ABH Primrose palette. The quality of these shadows are good. This is when ABH started kind of going in a new direction with their palette format, and we'll see more coming up. Too Faced Cinnamon Swirl, it still smells like cinnamon rolls, and this palette is, what, 4 years old now, and it still smells good. Natasha Denona Mini Biba. I like the Natasha Denona Mini palettes, I really do. But let's talk about her Glam Face palette, because you see why I'm not showing you all the Natasha packaging. It's not easy to do. I like the mix of face and eye shades. If it's my preference, that's not usually what I go for. But again, anything Natasha Denona puts out, I will buy. GlamLite did an Icy collab, and I bought the whole PR box because I'm like, I need it. I needed the cup, everything. I think these are now at like TJ Maxx, Marshalls, and if you see them, I do recommend them if you like blue or red shadows, because the quality of these palettes is really beautiful and I like them. Game Beauty Harbinger palette. Sorry if I say that wrong. Game Beauty is a brand that's based all around gaming, and this was actually the first time I tried the brand. I bought this palette because I was so curious. This is the Witching Hour palette. This is when Unearthly was called Alien Cosmetics, so before their whole rebrand. Let's look at this Pat McGrath holiday palette. I love her big holiday palettes. I hope she will do another one this year, but I guess just time will tell with that. Moonspell Volume 2 from Lunar Beauty. I can never not get Lunar Beauty palette. I bought this palette so fast because I love Volume 1 so much, I knew I needed Volume 2. Let's talk more about GlamLite. This is the Margarita palette. And this collection was so good from GlamLite. The quality of every single shadow of the 4 palettes they released is amazing. This wine palette, if you like purples, it's beautiful. I think this collection has been discontinued, which makes me really sad because the Chocolate Martini palette, one of my top favorite neutral palettes in my entire collection. It has got to be like top 10 out of all of my 600 palettes. They're not all neutral palettes, so I don't know how many neutral palettes I have. And same for this Dirty Martini or Martini, whatever it's called. The greens are so good. Let's talk about Jolie Beauty Vampirism. This one was another phenomenal quality. This one and Sorceress are the best Jolie Beauty has ever done in terms of quality. Melt. This was the Amori Mariposas, so Love and Butterflies collection. I know it had a lot of significant meaning and it's really beautiful. Sigma Disney Princess collection. This is Cinderella. This is the first Disney collab they did. I had an alarm set. I bought this at launch and it's still one of my favorites that Sigma's ever done. It's beautiful. This is the Nomad Haunted Europe palette. I bought this palette. This is another one. I had my alarm set because this is such a deep color story, but I think it's so cool. Beauty Bay Jade. This palette, a lot of people slept on. I remember I bought it right away, but it went on clearance and was around for a long time. The quality is amazing. Age of Opulence. This was a limited edition palette. I hate the packaging. I love the color story inside. I think it's beautiful and deep and decadent, and I'm here for it. But let's look at these Beauty Bay Disney palettes. These are based on colors from the movie. So this is Alice in Wonderland 1951. This is also Alice in Wonderland 1951. They pulled the colors straight from the movie, which I thought was such a cool concept. These are all matte palettes. So this one was the Jungle Book. These desaturated colors like bathe me in them, okay? Bambi This is very soft. To me, these are like complementary palettes, but look at Dumbo. I just love that they pulled the colors from the movie. I thought that was genius, and I had to have them all. Same, like, look at this. This was such a good idea. Blend Bunny Surge. I absolutely love this. These neons. I don't know if Surge is still around. I can't remember if this one was discontinued or not, but let's talk about these because I know these are limited edition collabs. We have Oden's Eye, the hummingbird with Tina from the Fancy Face, who I absolutely adore, and she did such a good job on this. So bright, so fun. This is the Red Dragon palette. This is a collab with Beaute, who is super nice. I've never met her in person, but I just think she seems so sweet, so genuine, so kind. And then the Giant Wolves palette from Annette. I've been able to meet Annette once, and I just adore her. Like, I really do. I think she did such a great job with Oden's Eye on these. I can't say enough good things. This is the Flower Beauty Desert Lights palette. All shimmer, all sparkle, really pretty. We have some ColourPop here. This is the second collab with Hocus Pocus. This is the Witching Hour. This one I liked. If I'm ranking them, it's 3 out of the Hocus Pocus collabs. ColourPop Sonic Bloom, why they did not restock this palette, I don't know. It's half neutral, half colorful, but very muted colorful shades. I don't know why it's not permanent. Nightmare Before Christmas, look at the packaging. Don't even ask me if I love this palette because hello, it's Nightmare Before Christmas. It's got bright pinks. It's got cool tones. Look at the detail in the mirror. Stop, ColourPop. Why are you so cute? Like, seriously. Let's talk about The Mandalorian. I don't know anything about the show. My husband and son absolutely love it. So I love having the time to like get this palette out and have my kid explain the names to me. It's fun. I enjoy it. Tinkerbell, this I do know all about. I love this palette too. I wish it were a permanent palette to the ColourPop line because Tink, like, this is a cute color story. Lush Life is another palette where I don't know why they didn't make this permanent. Like, why? Look at it. What more could you want? Why would you ever discontinue this? The quality is amazing. Malibu Barbie from ColourPop. Oh, I love it. I love it. I will never get rid of this palette. I loved Barbies as a kid, and anytime I see something Barbie, the inner child in me just perks up, okay? Play it, Jewel. I love this kaleidoscope packaging. It gets me. And I think the quality of this palette is really nice too. ColourPop Mega Palettes can be a great way to get a bunch of shades for a lower cost. And I do think the quality of this one is great. Lunar Beauty Life's a Drag Facelift. I never had the original, but I did buy the facelift palette. So it's half neutral, half colorful. I can't speak to how it is versus the first one. This is the Give Me Glow Pastel Dreams palette. This is not a favorite pastel palette for me, but I keep it for reference, and it's honestly pretty to look at. Be Perfect Carnival, the antidote. It is the antidote to all the color they gave us. It's still colorful, but it's colors that neutral lovers will like, in my opinion. Oden's Eye Saga of Freya. This was a fun collection. This is actually a double-sided palette, and I thought the vibes of this whole collection were very soft, very romantic. You had different tones. I kind of liked the book concept. I'm into kind of like out there creative packaging though. I enjoy that. I think fun is the whole like purpose of makeup, fun, creativity. To me, that's how I see it. This one also beautiful. If you don't know the legend of Freya, she does have cats. So it does make sense if you see the cats on this packaging. This one is Tears of Freya. Whoops, I'm dropping it. Let me not break it. Look how cute it is. Very soft pink tones. Super duper beautiful as always from Oden's Eye. The Norns palette, this was next level for me, but I love dark. I love dramatic. They did revamp this palette. We'll see it in the future years coming up. This is an extension of the Norns collection. This is Skuld. So Skuld, I'm sorry, I don't speak Swedish, okay? Go to my friend Angelica Neatvis if you want to hear the pronunciation of these words, okay? Because she can say Verdandi way better than me. I loved this though. This was kind of like a warm neutral type of palette. I don't know their take on warm neutrals, but my favorite of the 3 was Erd. I mean, Erd, I don't know. Listen, I don't speak Swedish. I'm trying my best over here in my American Southern accent. This Florasis palette though is like a work of art, a serious work of art. I demolished that blue shade. I know, don't judge me. I tried to be gentle, but you know, I get carried away. It's blue and it sparkles. What do you want from me? DeDe Signature, the Neutral Wonder palette. Beautiful, beautiful shimmer shades. I do like DeDe's Signature shimmers more than I like their mattes, but these mattes are good. You just build them up and blend them a bit. Geology Pilbara. This is actually an Australian brand. I bought this palette because I was just so intrigued, and I do think it's a very pretty palette. The Hendash palette. I don't use this like I thought I would, but I was so curious I had to buy it. Let's talk about BH Cosmetics some more. Lost in Los Angeles. This, I don't know if you can still get it, but if you want a drugstore pastel palette, that's it. Party in Puerto Rico. Warm tones. I love the travel series. I think they did a good job with these. The Amalfi Coast, Amore and Amalfi, I think. This was a really good neutral palette that had the pretty yellows and pinks that made it interesting, but Passion in Paris, I'm telling you, one of the best palettes ever. I love how deep and dark and dramatic it is. Such good quality. Nomad Fire and Ice palette. This is inspired by Iceland. Nomad does destination palettes. This is the first palette I ever bought from Nomad Cosmetics, and I've been in love ever since. What can I say? This is the new Romantic from Beauty Bay. Again, they love their limited edition palettes, and I don't know why. Their most interesting color stories are in these limited edition 20 pan formats. The Wilderness is one of their best. Look at the color story. I mean, what can I say that it doesn't say for itself? It doesn't even need me to speak for it because it's like, I got this. I'm beautiful. I know I'm beautiful. Now what? Lowest Cosmetics Meet Me in the Underworld. I love mythology. We've already established that. That's what sold me on this palette. I just couldn't get past it. But the quality in here was so good, and I wish they would have continued. This is a quad from Pat McGrath, and I like Pat McGrath quads. It has a special shade in here and some shimmers, and it's cute. You know, it's cute. DeDe's Signature Pumpkin Spice. This was cute too. It had a cute little, like, almost like two duos put together instead of a quad is how I see it. But this is Pat McGrath. Which mothership is this? Utopian Dream. Absolutely beautiful. Like, I can't look at those special shimmer shades without swatching them because they're so intense. They're so flaky. They're just so pretty. Stop. Look at that. Are you kidding me? Just all over the eye. What more do you want? Fame Beauty Victory palette. This one is also really cute, warm with the blues. The tones go well together. I know it's pretty. This is the Fantasy palette. This one is like their pastel palette. Now, the newer Fantasy Cosmetica palettes, I do think the formula is a lot better. These are good though. The new formula is just even better. This is the Adventure palette, green, cute. I liked this one. I didn't absolutely love it, but the What's a Beauty Desert Monsoon palette, this was the first palette from the brand, and it's neutral leaning, but the quality is so good, y'all. So seriously good. Let's look at the Kaleidos. What is this called? Flower Punk. Yeah, it's got like this mirrored top, and then you kind of slide it off. Why they don't restock this, I'm guessing I don't know. There must be some issue getting it back in stock because the quality is so good. Why wouldn't you have it in stock? Samantha March is a good friend of mine. Absolutely love her. She had this collaboration with Ofra. I put stickers all over the front of mine, and she did face shades and eye shades inside. A very Samantha palette. Teresa Love collaborated with Lethal for Lethal is Dead. Look at this color story. It's so cute. Really, really a beautiful palette. And then I have Arttitude Cosmetics Phoenix, Born from the Ashes. This is a pretty palette. Arttitude in their newer palettes, the formula is much better than this. Although this was good, their new formula is better. Club Nebula and Angelica. Obviously, I love this. Bestie made this palette and she killed it. This is Kaleidos's? You know what I mean. Best palette ever. Fall Magic. This is when they rebranded to Unearthly Cosmetics. And I like this palette. It's a great fall color story. Here we have Strawberry Milkshake. This was when they were still Alien Cosmetics. Really cute color story though. Really creative, really fun. One of their best. Let's talk about this one. This is the Capricorn palette. This is basically an all matte palette. Now we'll talk about All I Ever Wanted, again, still when they were Alien Cosmetics. So this is an all shimmer, sparkle, multi-chrome, duochrome type of palette. All these beautiful special shades. I really liked this one. I had to buy it. And then we have Oden from Adept. This color story is so ugly beautiful. And I mean that as a compliment because it's just such a good palette. Mary Jane, I'm telling y'all, Melt loves it. Like, it's their favorite thing. It's their favorite thing. So this was their cool tone palette. This palette I enjoyed. A lot of people hated it. I loved it. I don't know what was up with me on that one. This is the Brunette palette. Very neutral, but I enjoyed this one too. Very soft and pretty. The Blueprint palette, this used to be a stack. They now made it into a palette, which I'm here for. Half neutral, half blue. This is the Zendo from Natasha Denona. This one also got a lot of mixed reviews, and I don't know why. The quality is beautiful. The color story is beautiful. What more could you want? This is the Retro palette. Stop. I love it. Here we have the Mini Love. I'm pretty sure this is the Mini Love. What do you want to say about Natasha Denona that I haven't already said? The Mini Zendo, I love this more than the Big Zendo. It gives me everything I need. I don't need any more than this. But let's talk about this Circo Loco. My love. Beaute from Glaminatrix. This is the first palette I ever bought from Glaminatrix. I ordered it, shipped from Australia. Beautiful, obsessed, love. Blend Bunny Blends all matte palette. You can't tell that I've used it so much because a little goes a long way. Let's talk about Unearthly Lure. I bought Lure, the first palette I ever bought from Unearthly, and it started my love for the brand, but I bought it back when it was Alien. This is just the new updated version. Hauntingly Glamorous, the collab with Sydney Nicole. Fabulous. Fabulous. She did an amazing job on this palette. Again, this is probably one of my favorites that the brand has ever done. Let's look now at Not Normal. I want to be them. They're gorgeous. I love a half green, half purple, half neutral palette. What can I say? GlamLite Michaela Pot 1. This is a great palette. Like, to me, this is beautiful. I think Michaela did a great job on this palette. GlamLite is a favorite brand for me, obviously. In 2022, I got to collaborate with Adept Cosmetics, and we released my Heather Austin palette. Of course, this is a favorite for me. I love this palette. Adept just restocked it, and it makes me so, so happy, y'all. Mattes, shimmery, multi-chromy, special shades. Everything about this palette I just love, and it's a dream comes true, honestly. Let's talk about these Beauty Bay palettes. Beauty Bay makes really good palettes. This is the Earthy palette, all green, and then we have the berries. Not only does Beauty Bay have a really great eyeshadow formula, but they're at a really low price point, and I can definitely appreciate that. I mean, who doesn't like a good price point, right? Look at these pink berry tones. I really like this one. And then the Midnight palette is not just blues. They pulled in some purples too, so it's kind of a half blue, half purple palette, which I think is really fun, and I enjoy these. Let's talk about Moira Endless Moon Night. This is a part of their Celestial series, and this is a cool toned palette. Moira Cosmetics is a brand that I've been trying lots of things from this year, and I'm really enjoying it so far. I've tried some of their cream blushes that I really enjoy too, but I like these color stories. This is the I'm Falling For You from Moira. Very romantic, like envelope inspired, like a love letter or something. I'm all about a theme, and Moira definitely took it there with the theme of this palette and these cute purple pinks. Martine Cosmetics, this is their Diner palette, and look how cute these little like imprints on the pans are. I know mine is used in swatch, so it's a little hard to tell, but there's milkshakes, cherries, burgers, really, really cute stuff. This is the GlamLite Berrylicious palette, collab with Strawberry Shortcake. Pinks, greens, reds, I mean, what more could you want? And it's in that great GlamLite formula that I really love. This is the ColourPop Aurora Struck palette. I like this palette, but I wasn't just crazy about it like I thought I would be. I feel like there were just a couple of shades like missing, a couple of changes I would have made, but it's okay. Let's talk about Jelly Beauty Zombified. Oh my gosh. Wait, hold, please, neons. Look at these neons. so intense and pretty and fun and different. This little palette from Natasha Denona is so cute. This is a little pastel palette, mostly shimmer shades. I really like the minis from Natasha Denona, so I enjoy this. But next, we will talk about these ABH palettes. This one right here is so pretty. I loved when ABH started doing this format. I think this is the Rose Metals is what it's called. It's supposed to be like 90s inspired. I just think their eyeshadow, like they brought it to current times, you know? And then this palette right here, so beautiful. Wait till you see inside. Oh, so cute. A very, very soft palette. This is the Nouveau palette, but really pretty, I think. Next, we will talk about Huda Beauty Empowered. I kept this palette, even though I think for the price point, I do prefer Natasha Denona, but these shades are beautiful and it is a good palette. So I have kept it in my collection. Pat McGrath Star Wars, I love these, okay? My family is such huge Star Wars fans. I've only ever seen one movie, but because of their love for Star Wars, it like bleeds over into me. So this little R2-D2 palette is all like bright shimmer shades. These Pat McGrath palettes are so shiny. It's so hard to like capture on camera and not like blind y'all with the light. So I am sorry about that, but I just want to show you. Like I just want to show you. I think it's so cute. I do have videos on this if you want to see like in detail close-ups without the light reflect, all of that, but look how pretty. Let's talk about Ace Beaute. This is the MV palette. This has been out of stock for a long time, and I'm really not sure if it was limited edition or not, but so is the Aura palette. I hope they bring these back because both of these palettes are amazing. The quality is beautiful, but you know I love the Oden's Eye Christmas palettes. These launched in 2022. They brought them back for holiday last year, and they're so good. Such creative color stories, and they're in that Oden's Eye formula that I just obsess over. Honestly, they're so incredibly good. So you had one that was a little brighter and one that's a little more cool toned, like this one with the deep, rich blue shades. You can't hardly see right here, but there was like a snowflake embossed in the pan. And now we have the Retro Glam from Natasha Denona. So pretty, so soft. Not a favorite color story for me, but a beautiful palette. This is the Daily Grind from Unearthly Cosmetics, kind of a citrus-inspired type of palette. Really, really cute. And then we'll look at Dead of Night. I'm not sure if these palettes are still in stock on the Unearthly site. I will link to them down below in the description box, along with my affiliated code, everything like that. But super duper pretty. This is the Laura Lee Los Angeles Whimsical Nudes palette. I like this. I like these deep colors. I like this kind of earthy color story. I thought it was really beautiful. And then we have Glaminatrix Cosmetics Glamorous palette. And this is a glam palette. Look at these purple and teals. I think it's really beautiful. We do have some light shimmer shades and we have some deep dark mattes, and I think that's really cool. This is the Lexi LA collab with BellaBeauteBar. Now, BellaBeauteBar does have a new eyeshadow formula that they use, but I really like this. I've met like Lexi a couple of times and she's super kind, super talented. Let's talk about the Be Perfect Carnival Interstellar palette. I did not need another rainbow palette from Be Perfect. Obviously, of course, you've seen all my other ones, but look at this. I mean, how could I say no? How can anybody say no? You see it. I see it. It's beautiful. It's one of these like super sparkly rainbow palettes that I just really enjoy. These shades are beautiful, but let's now talk about this next palette from Tarte. I think this Maneater palette looks like a laptop. What do you think? I would love to hear. But the color story inside is beautiful, and there are some really intense metallic shades, different formulas, and I can always appreciate that. Next up, we're going to talk about Nearly Natural from Glaminatrix. I love this. I think it's discontinued, but it's one of their best. I mean, you can see I used it. Like, I love that palette. But we'll talk about the One Up palette from Lethal Cosmetics. It's shaped like a video arcade game. Hello, creativity. Hello, colorful, bright color story. I actually ordered the Lethal Avatar collection recently, so I'm really excited to get that one in the mail. But this is the Garden of Juvia's palette. This is a great pastel palette at a lower price point. If you are looking to add some pastels into your collection and you don't want to spend a ton, this one's really, really nice. Blend Bunny Primal has been discontinued, so I won't go on and on and on about this one. You see, it's bright, it's primal, it's fun. But next up, the Dollhouse. This was like Blend Bunny's first dip into neutrals, and those dark shades look the same. I'm trying to show you, but when you swatch them out, when you use them on the eyes, they are all different tones. And if you're somebody like me who likes dark shadows, yeah, it's a good one. This is the Jolie Beauty Ethereality palette. I don't think the formula in this one is quite as good as Vampirism and Sorceress. I like it, but I don't love it as much as those. It is very pretty though, and I do enjoy it. House of L from Adept Cosmetics. We've already established how much I love Adept Cosmetics. Hello, I collaborated with them. But when this palette launched, I was like, oh yes, this is fun. It's based on the House of L, Superman. I think Adept, they just do really cool themes along with their amazing formulas. I can't help it. I have to give you a little swatch sometimes. Like, do you have those palettes where you just open them and you can't help but dip your fingers into them? That's that palette for me. This palette is the Plain Jane Remastered palette. Adept Cosmetics had Plain Jane and they updated their formula, so they gave us a new Plain Jane. I'm all about that. This is an anhydrous, also from Adept. Beautiful. This one restocked recently, I believe. Adept does pretty good about letting you sign up for restocks on their website and notifying you when things come back in stock. But this Amunet palette, I think is discontinued actually. I love this though. Very like neutral-esque. And then Minka, oh my gosh, y'all, look. It's so sparkly. This to me is like glamorous vibes. So fun, so sparkle heavy. And you know, this is another one where I'm like, okay, I gotta dip my fingers into this. I gotta give a little swatch. Look how smooth that is, first of all. It's so smooth, and you see the shift in the mirror. Don't play with me. I know you see the shift. You see it, right? Like, tell me that is not like magical on the eyes. I love it so much. This is the mystery palette from Lunar Beauty. Sorry, I gotta calm down. Next, we're gonna talk about What's Up Beauty. I'm so excited talking about these. This is their Geodes palette. This was their second launch. Very soft, very beautiful. What's Up Beauty does a lot of color that I think neutral lovers will also like. The Dragon Fruit palette from Clionadh Cosmetics is a collab with Emily Violet Marie, and it's all sparkle special shades. I really like that we have these pinks, these purples, these peaches. And then next I want to show you the Nude Prism palette for Lunar Beauty. Is this not a beautiful packaging? And the color story inside is so soft and beautiful as well. I love Lunar Beauty. They do it so well. But let's talk about Serenity. This was the first palette I ever tried from Cosmic Beauty. They were cosmic brushes, and you can clearly see why I love this color story. I mean, hello, lime green. What else do you want from me? I don't know. The Fairy Tale Fairies palette from Simply Posh is the first time I tried the brand, and it made me go, okay, this brand is onto something. They're really onto something. The color story was beautiful in that, right? This is Ace Beaute Paletteopoly palette. I bought this palette and I love it. It's so beautiful. Now, some of these palettes I'm showing you were sent to me. Most of these I bought myself. I can't remember everything as I'm talking so quickly, but this palette from Pat McGrath, obviously gorgeous, right? Like, we've already established that Pat McGrath does texture well, and you see how reflective and shiny that is. She also did 2 mini palettes for Bridgerton. So cute, right? You see the bees on the pan, like it fits with the show and everything. I actually prefer the books to the show, but I do love the show. They're kind of their own separate things. Like, I say I'm not going to sit there and compare the books to the show, but I always do. So what can I say? These are beautiful. Hella. This is my bestie Angelica Nikvis and Oden's Eye. This was their first collaboration palette together. It's green, it's pink, it's kind of swampy, it's kind of floral. It's like life and death, right? Next we have Solmon. I am told that this means sun and moon, and this is part 2. You saw part 1 earlier, the original. And this is a really cool concept with the 3 different rows being 3 different types of colors. Next we have Unearthly Cosmetics Vitality. I heard a rumor they're bringing this palette back. I don't know if that's true, but I think it would be really cool if they did because it's super beautiful. This palette right here is in the dark. I always want to call it something else, but it's in the dark and it's so, so pretty. Unearthly Cosmetics, another favorite brand for me. If you're not new here, you already know that. If you're new here, hey, I love Unearthly. This is their Bunnies palette. This was their version of a pastel palette. So you kind of had 6 mattes and then 6 shimmer shades, which I think was super fun. Their Leather and Lace palette was another palette that I think falls into the category of if you only wear neutral shadows and you want to try color, you could try that one because it's really pretty. Don't Be Jelly, the first edition. This is all shimmers, all multi-chromes, all special shades. The new Don't Be Jelly, you'll see coming up, is also beautiful. But this was like a completely different palette. It doesn't even line up with the new one. So this is All I Ever Wanted Volume 2. You saw Volume 1 earlier, but Volume 2 was all about the greens, the yellows. We even had a little bit of peach in there, but overall, my eye immediately goes to those greens and yellows. This is the Sleepover palette. This was a Valentine's Day release, if I remember correctly, and I love this color story. It's super fun, but let's get into Halloween. These 3 quads that I'm going to show you now were from a mystery box that Unearthly did. So it was a mystery box, didn't know what we were going to get, all exclusive to the box. And it had these 3 quads, which I think were so good. I would love to see some version of this come back to Unearthly, especially this green one. But let's talk about their Halloween So Strange palette. This, beautiful. I have multiple videos with these next 4 palettes, including this one, up on my channel. So if you're looking for some tutorials, definitely check those out. They're older, but they're still good. Like, I still love those looks. I still love these palettes, and I love the artwork. What can I say? Like, I just love anything like creepy crawly. I'm here for it. Here we have the Weirdos. Oh, I'm ready to go watch the movie now, but I love the kind of mix of shades in this palette. It's super duper fun, and you have your multi-chromes in there, again with the really over the top, super cool, super fun packaging. Here we have 1964. The artist who did this artwork should be so proud of themselves. I'm just saying, like, it's so fun, it's so cool, it's so just everything. You see the kind of shifts in the mirror, the way these shadows like catch the light. Again, I gotta do a little swatch. Like, I can't help myself. I gotta put my little fingers into these pans because they're just too pretty. But Warms My Blood was my favorite palette. It was my #1 top favorite palette of 2022. If you watched that ranking video, you already know I rank my palettes every single year. Best palette I tried, worst palette I tried, I ranked them all, and this was the #1. I love red, I love purple, I love these warm shades, and there was something about these that just, it had my heart. I'm gonna swatch it for you so you can, oh, stop. What do I want you to stop? I don't know. My heart stops. I don't know what it is. It's just so beautiful. But let's talk about some color pop. This is the Star Wars palette. They have lots of Star Wars palette, but this is like the main one, you know, really pretty color story. And then we will talk about Hocus Pocus, the second movie, the third Hocus Pocus palette from ColourPop. I like this. I think it fit the second movie, which I thought was super duper cute. And then here is the Star Wars ColourPop Darth Vader palette. I think they did a good job of making a Darth Vader inspired palette that was still really wearable and not just black, you know. This is the C3PO palette. I love yellows and browns together. And then the last one I'll show you right here is the Bon Voyage palette. I don't know who BT21 is. I thought this palette was okay though. This is the mini bronze from Natasha Denona. Super cute, right? I love her little mini palettes. This is the mini crush. So we have these cute little pink tones, mostly matte shades, really cute. And then we have the My Dream palette. This is a lot of people's favorite Natasha Denona palette, and I totally get it. It's got neutrals with a little bit of a twist. The pastel palette is so good because there are several cream to powder shadows in here, and I love that formula from Natasha. I think she does it so well. But let's talk about Sigma. This is Sigma Bare Bliss. So you have some rosy tones, some neutral tones, and I enjoy it. Let's talk about the beautiful Diana Saldana palette. This is gorgeous, 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 gorgeous. Very neutral, very sparkly, very pretty, perfect for like everyday or glam looks. The next palette is the Alice in Wonderland palette. I told y'all anything Disney will get me. I love this palette. It's definitely unexpected from Sigma, something pretty different for them, a little like a break from what they normally do. You know, I love the color. And then Nomad, this has got to be one of their most popular palettes because look at this. I feel like this is a palette that basically everybody will like. Next, we're going to talk about more Fantasy Cosmetica. This is the Sorcerer palette. I think every shade in here is great quality. They really did a good job with this one, and I feel the same way about the Bard. I think this is a beautiful fall type of color story. I would love to see like an expansion of that palette, but the Druid palette is their first palette ever, and I tried the brand with this palette and fell in love. I think they make really cool color stories. I think they do such a good job. I mean, it's a beautiful palette. It really is. They did update the packaging, and I do have it in the newer packaging. I just want to show you quickly. So if you do ever decide you want to try Fantasy Cosmetica and you're like, wait, mine looks different, they did update it. This is Gemini from Melt, and I love Gemini. Like, we saw it earlier, the kind of first edition of it. That was the revamped. These next few palettes are the Bad Zodiac collection from Melt Cosmetics. These are good. They're not what I love about Melt, though. What I love about Melt is that they do fun, cool, interesting, different color stories. And for me, these were just a tad boring and predictable. Let's talk about Nomad. I love this palette. To me, this is like a 90s color story. Who remembers the show Blossom? Me. This is the Nomad Hudson Valley palette. It's so pretty, right? Look at that bright, vibrant red. Whistler Snow Lodge, really pretty colors, blues and everything, and I'm into it. Next, we have the Monteverde Cloud Forest. So if you didn't know, Nomad Cosmetics not only is based around destinations and travel, but they also donate a percentage of all of their collections to a charity. So you see this one is Paradise something, I forget, but bright colors, and I know they support conservation. Next, we'll talk about some holiday palettes from Pat McGrath. These are cute. I like that she did 2 mini palettes. The 2 mini palettes are neutral. You can see this one is more cool tones. And then this one here, I want to say these are called like Celestial Nirvana or something wild. That was a more pinky tone, but they really complemented this large, colorful palette well, because you see Pat McGrath went for color on this one. Purples, reds. Of course, we have some neutral shades in there, but overall, Pat McGrath went for color. And I appreciate that. I thought that was super fun. This is Besame Cosmetics Poison palette. I keep it for the packaging. I thought the shadows were fine. This one, they say this is an eyeshadow. To me, there is a straight up pressed glitter in here, but you know, who am I to say? I just love this packaging. I think it's so fun. Let's talk about GlamLite Frosted Flakes. The quality of this palette, phenomenal. I love these colors. If these are your colors, you will love this palette because the quality is so good. Beautiful, smooth shimmers. Next, we have Michaela Pot 2 palette. I actually got to go to this launch party. I got to meet Michaela, and it was the first time I met the GlamLite team, and it was just such a good time. I love the greens and purples and blues in this palette. Let's talk about Barbie. I already told you, I love anything Barbie. My inner child is so happy when I see this. I love the pinks, the purples. It's just really, really pretty. But I really love that GlamLite did this format for Michaela as well and offered a mini palette option to where you kind of got half neutrals, half green shades. The quality in here is great. I don't know if you can still get this palette. I know it came to CVS and I thought that was cool. But these two palettes from GlamLite, the Scooby-Doo, the Tin Pans, have got to be some of my favorite palettes that GlamLite ever did. Just really, really quality palettes. And of course, I loved Scooby-Doo as a kid, so the fact that I got two Scooby-Doo palettes, like, I was over the top excited about this. And the little villains inside, I have more Beauty Bay palettes, and it just, I hate that Beauty Bay does these gorgeous color stories in their limited edition palettes. I wish that they would keep these fun color stories around and not just keep their monochromatic palettes around, but what can I say? You know, they didn't ask me. This is Disney Fantasia in one size. So fun. Gourmande Girls Spooked palette. They did this fun Halloween palette. Really, really cute. This is Klarity Cosmetics Apocalypse. I couldn't pass this up. I thought this was a fun color story for a Halloween launch. And Klarity, their shimmers are so smooth. Look at that. Look, like, that was so smooth. It just melted on to my hand. And this one too, I can't. I'm gonna have to show you in the mirror. You know I have to. Like, I can't help it. It just, you stop. See the shifts? Stop looking at them. Look at them again because they're so pretty. You have to see this. I can't help myself. This is the Sea Witch palette from Electrum Cosmetics. Really, really beautiful shadows from this indie brand. Next, we have BellaBeauteBar Strange and Unusual. I bought this palette and then they kind of redid it, so I definitely needed the newer version in their updated formula. BellaBeauteBar Angles of Illumination Part 3. This is all duochromes, and I really enjoyed this palette too. I think it's super nice and fun. Makeup Revolution and Coraline. Sell me a Halloween-themed movie on a makeup palette, like, I'll buy it. Take my money. Beetlejuice Makeup Revolution. Bought this one too. Couldn't help myself. I don't know what you want me to say about it. These are the Kaleidos quads. The quality is so great on these. Kaleidos has been doing more neutral color stories lately, and I get it. That's probably what most people want to see, and these are super beautiful. These are from the Night of Creation collection. Yes, look at these purples. I just said they did neutrals, but here we have purples. Next is Tropicolor. This is Sydney Grace and the Fancy Face, who is Tina. I think Sydney Grace makes beautiful matte shadows, very smooth shimmers, and I think Tina did a great job. Teresa collaborated again with Lethal Cosmetics for Teresa is Lethal. Again, a beautiful color story, but look at this palette from Batty Bean and Shroud. I mean, is my friend talented or what? Because this is really a beautiful color story. Look at the multi-chrome in the mirror. You can see it shifting. This is the Nomad North Pole palette. I don't know. It was their Christmas palette. Super duper cute. But next we're going to look at this NARS Stargazer palette. I think it's called something like that. This was a good one. MAC Stranger Things. I love a MAC collab. I wish they did them more often. But you have like a Hawkins palette and then there was an Upside Down palette. I couldn't pass these up. I have a whole video on it. And then we have the MAC Black Panther. I bought this too. This was for Wakanda Forever. I bought the highlighters. Like, I really like this collection. This is Blend Bunny all done up. I like this too. This was another like neutral-esque type of palette from Blend Bunny, and I think they did a good job here. This is Simply Posh Genuine Gems. That is a mouthful to say, but we got it out. It's cute. This is Martine Cosmetics. This is their like triple X palette, I think, XXX, something like that. I don't know. ColourPop Not a Box of Chocolates palettes. This is a neutral palette, right? Very neutral, very kind of basic, but very pretty. I like this. It has kind of these sparkly, glittery type shades. Look at this swatch. I mean, the swatch says it all, right? Matte About Hue palette. This is just a big matte rainbow palette. I think this was smart for them to have in their line. Now this Hindash Monochromance palette, I did not use this like I thought I would, but I tested it. I don't know what's going on with the brand. I did buy this palette from Pat McGrath. This is an older palette, but they put a Star Wars sticker on it, and I said, take my money. What can I say? This quad, I think, is called Bronze Borealis, something like that. And then this little palette they have at Sephora for like a low, low price, and it's cute, right? Gourmande Girls Ethereal palette. This is so pretty. This is like these sparkle duochrome type of shades. Really, really pretty, full of sparkle. I enjoy this one. I think it's cute. Here's a swatch. So pretty. And then they have the Radioactive palette. This one has more bright shades, but it's the same concept. All sparkle shades. You can kind of see the shift in the mirror there. Next, we have the Ascendant palette from Electrum Cosmetics. This has like face shades in here or multi-use shades, whatever you want to call it. Super duper pretty. Then we have the Cyberpunk palette from Game Beauty. Super bright shades. Again, Game Beauty does have a new updated formula. We'll see soon. This is a ski palette, Après Ski. I forget, but it's from Martine Cosmetics and it's so cute. These shades are really, really beautiful and they apply beautifully on the eyes too. This is the Martine Cosmetics 669 palette. It has a little clasp, so you open it like this, and then you have a deep, dark color story inside. You have this is Celestial Garden. This is a collaboration between M. Jones and BellaBeauteBar. Really pretty with water-activated liners. And then I've got a Sigma palette. This is a Warm Wishes palette. I believe this was limited edition for holiday, so I don't think you can get your hands on this one anymore, but I do think it was a really pretty selection of warm shades, and I like the Sigma quality. I think they make really nice shadows. I don't have the full-size Ambiance palette from Sigma, but I do have this one that is their kind of mini version with these really beautiful warm tones, a nice mix of mattes and shimmers. And then we have my first palette from Ensley Rain. This is Midwinter Dream, a collaboration with Brittany Huffman. I bought this palette on a pre-order. I waited for it to come in and I was not disappointed. I've been a fan of the brand ever since this palette. Look at it. This right here is Unearthly Cosmetics Complex. There was an issue with this palette and Unearthly was selling them at a discount, something like that. So I bought this and you can see it's full of really beautiful special shades. But we are going to go into 2023 and we're going to start off by seeing my collab with Unearthly, Resurgence. This is my Resurgence palette. I love this palette. I have a whole video talking about this one. Obviously, it's my palette, so I adore it. It's perfect. Look at these bright shades. We have like a mix of colors and neutral-esque shades, everything I could hope for. After that, we get into my bestie Angelica Nyqvist palette. This is Little Ghost. This is super bright, colorful, fun. Look at her looking so great on the cover of this palette. I love it. She did such a good job getting like bright colors in this palette. Beautiful shimmers, beautiful matte shades. You can create so many fun, bright looks with this palette. And then we're going to look at her Trick or Treat palette. I keep mine in the sleeves because it's like an added layer of beautiful protection for this artwork. And then on the inside, we have a gorgeous fall type of color story. We have some colorful shades that lean a little more like nature fall inspired. I mean, they're both nature inspired, right? Like you could look at the ocean on one side, you could look at fall leaves on the other, whatever. It's just so beautiful. Like look at that swatch. They're so smooth. I can't rave about my bestie enough, y'all. Let me just swatch another shade. I got to put it right there. I can't help myself. She did a great job on this. Let's talk about these palettes. This is Lauren May Beauty Sea Talk palette with Oden's Eye. I love Lauren. She is such a cool person. I've been able to hang out with her a few times now, and her palette is so good. I love this yellow satiny shade. She did such a cool palette that gives you versatility in the looks you can create. You have these like cool blues and then you have these kind of warm shades. I can't help myself. When I open these palettes, I just have to swatch them, okay? They're so beautiful. And now we're going to look at my friend Amanda's palette. Amanda is Makeup Just for Fun here on YouTube, and she created the Flora Story palette. We did a video around Christmas time mixing my collab from Unearthly and her collab with Oden's Eye, and it was a lot of fun. Look at that shade. Like, it's so soft but also impactful at the same time. She did a good job on this one. Now, this is the Planet Spirit palette. This was created with my friend Betty Jean and Oden's Eye, and it's bright, it's colorful, it's fun, it's everything. It is the moment. Look at this green shade. Oh my gosh, I love it. I love it. This is my friend Allie Dawson's palette. This is the Falling in Love palette. Such a gorgeous fall color story. Beautiful. This is Garden Lights from Flower Beauty. Another one of those all shimmer metallic type of palettes that's just really fun. Kaleidos quads here. These are great. Really soft, but really beautiful. Kaleidos has a really great eyeshadow formula. Like, I really wish they would do more eyeshadow palettes because I need them all. This is not a palette. This is a collection of singles from Fantasy Cosmetica. These are all like soft holochrome type shades, very sparkly. I do have a full Fantasy Cosmetica playlist if you want to check that out. This Fighter palette is so good for them. Like, I love warm tones more than cool, but they knocked it out of the park with this. This is Wicked Widow Beauty Graveyard Smash. So this was their Halloween palette from last year, and I really think the color story of this one is interesting. They played around with different tones and did something kind of unexpected. Nomad Air, this is part of their travel series, and it's just a very neutral palette. Glaminatrix Sugar and Spice. This is a color story that kind of challenged me. I think it's really fun and beautiful, but I didn't know what to do with it right away. So I had fun with that aspect of it. Rich Romantic is exactly what it says. Like, you look at it and you feel the romantic vibes. It's a beautiful palette, and I love Glaminatrix. They're from Australia, which is cool. This is the Sun and Sea palette from BellaBeauteBar. I really like these warm tones. I love a warm shadow. Give me a warm brown, give me an orangey tone, I'm here for it. And there are just some really good like textures and finishes in this palette. But the basic witch palette from BellaBeauteBar has got to be one of my favorite palettes they've ever done. There are just several shades in here that I feel like are very unique, very special, something that I don't see, especially paired together. I could just tell that they know how to put together a color story. And of course, when I open it, I have to swatch it. Like, I can't help myself. I just have to get my fingers in these shadows. And you see how like soft but shifty they are. Look at this shifty palette. Like, how cool is this? Ghost Town USA from Nomad Cosmetics. This is a fun color story. Come on, I want you to be able to see the embossings in the pan, because this is based around ghost towns here in the US, like out in the West. Super cool. Resurrection from Wicked Widow Beauty. This palette took my breath away. I cannot explain to you how good this palette is. Every single shade is amazing. Of course, I've got to give you a little swatch right there just so you can see how pretty it is. Beauty and the Beast, Sigma. I told you I love a Disney collab, and Sigma knocked this one out of the park, per usual. Very soft, beautiful, with the blue for Beast, the gold for Belle. And then we have Arttitude Cosmetics Obsession Palette. This is a great formula from Arttitude. I thought this was a really, really beautiful, really fun release for the brand, and I was so impressed. Let me give you a little swatch of this shade right here, and you can see how smooth and gorgeous that is. It has such a pretty shift to it as well. Let me kind of show you right here in the mirror. You can see that it's like this colorful neutral shade. This is the Mayday palette from Martin Cosmetics. Super cool, shark bite inspired, Jaws type of theme, something along those lines. But next we have the Isamaya. I want to say this is the Industrial 2.0 palette, I think. Beautiful, shimmery, sparkly shades. I was skeptical, but I ended up really falling in love with this one. And then we'll look at the Warlock palette from Fantasy Cosmetica. Again, I really love this brand, and I think they make cool, fun color stories that always have me interested. Unearthly Cosmetics Spaced Out. This palette was from their summer small mystery box, and then this Get Gravy palette was from their large mystery box. Really beautiful rainbow palette. Unearthly, again, has great quality shadows. This is Blend Bunny Cosmetics Forget Me Not. This was meant for the eyes and the face. For me, the tones didn't work because I have a warm olive undertone, but it's still cool. Angles of illumination. This type of packaging is so hard to show on camera, but I'm going to try my best, y'all, because I want you to see these really pretty sparkly shades. They're super duper beautiful, and you know I need to swatch just a couple. Let's do this one right here, this one right here, and then we'll just kind of swatch them on my hand so you can see how smooth they are, how pigmented they are, and just overall how beautiful. Then we have the Bejeweled palette. This is Jewel Tones. Jewel Tones. Beautiful reds, blues, all of that. We have Cosmic Brushes Winter Wonderland palette. This is phenomenal too. Really gorgeous shades. I like this one so much. Let's swatch this multi-chrome right here, and we'll do this shade right here too. I'm just going to swatch these right here on the back of my hand so that you can see how they kind of glide on. And then I'm going to use my mirror just to kind of show you the shift of these, because I think these are beautiful and they need to have their moment in the spotlight. You know, they just need their moment. DeDe Signature. This is a collection of singles from the brand. Really cute in this little palette. I have the Heaven on Earth palette from Sydney Grace. They sent me this palette and I think it's so pretty. Next I have the Naruto, I don't know. It's a ColourPop palette. Super duper cute, but I can't say it right. This is GlamLite Hershey's Cookies and Cream palette. Really beautiful. Once again, I love the brand GlamLite. And then they have their warmer version, just the Hershey's. Next up, I have the Metamorphic palette from Beauty Bay. This is a good palette. I wish it had a couple of more mattes to make the palette a little more versatile. Lunar Beauty Siren Sunset. Wow. 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 You know we need to swatch this too. Beautiful swatches on this. I mean, what can I say? It's Lunar Beauty. What else to expect? GlamLite Garfield. So cute. Let me show you a little swatch of this one too, because I just want to swatch some of these metallics. I think GlamLite has such a nice formula. You can see how easy those are to like glide on. Crazy in Love was their Chucky collection. Super fun. This was their Valentine's Day collection, which I thought was a fun spin on Valentine's Day. And then we have the Norns palette. This is Oden's Eyes remastered Norns palette. Really pretty. Like, look at the shades. Super fun. Devour from Unearthly. Really beautiful, bright, fun shades. Sorceress Smoke. This is more earthy tones, greens and browns and whatnot. Then we have Fall Magic, this color story, and then Aurora Lights. Simply Posh. Really beautiful. We have the mattes, we have the duochromes, everything. Then we've got Cozy Cabin from Simply Posh. This launched at the end of last year, and it's beautiful, absolutely beautiful. I do have the two Moondust palettes from Urban Decay. I like these a lot. I think Urban Decay did a good job with these. If you have a ton of indie shadows, they won't wow you, but I think they were fun. Next, we have palettes from Game Beauty. Now, these are really great quality. Game Beauty did such a good job with these. I really like every single one. The blue one is super pretty. I loved that more red one. Now we have the green one, and I'm going to give you a little swatch of the green one so that you can see right here on the back of my hand. I'll just kind of swatch a couple of these shades for you. Game Beauty did a good job. I think they're like stepping it up for sure. This one I think may be my favorite just because the tones are unique. And then this purple one had amazing quality too, with a really beautiful like selection of multi-chromes and sparkle shades. So can't go wrong with these. This Nightmare Before Christmas GlamLite collab was really fun. I really like the lenticular motion packaging. This isn't my absolute favorite formula from GlamLite, but it's still a really good formula. Then we have Sumerian Sunset from Adept Cosmetics. Adept Cosmetics, of course, I love. So look at this beautiful warm green color story. Element 115, also really cool. I love the alien on the front. I thought this was super special, and really happy with this palette for sure. I'm going to give you a couple little swatches of these shades just so you can see right there on the back of my hand how smooth and pigmented these are. We're going to have to swatch a couple from Sumerian Sunset too. I just decided to swatch these kind of together so you could see what type of like quality Adept is putting out. I think these, they're just great. Like, I just love them. ColourPop Haunted Mansion collab. This is the Welcome Foolish Mortals palette. I love the outside packaging, but when we look at the inside, I think they did a good job bringing the ride to a wearable palette. This is Legend of Korra, also from ColourPop. This was a beautiful color story as well. Super easy to create looks with this palette. And then we have the Adept Cosmetics Seahorse palette. Beautiful sparkly shades. I love it. Here's a couple of swatches of those shades, just so you can kind of see what we're working with here. Next, we have Bailey Sarian and Melt Cosmetics. This was their collab, all matte palette, really beautiful. And then next we're gonna look at their Nightmare Before Christmas palettes. This is the Halloween Town and Christmas Town palettes. I keep them in their box just because I think they're so fun and beautiful. But this one has Jack dressed up as Santa on it, which I think is really fun. I think they did a good job with this whole collection, and the color story inside is just as cool. I think it totally represents Christmas Town. A lot of fun. This one is the Halloween Town. Look at Oogie Boogie on the front with his bad self looking so cool. And then we do have a very Halloween Town inspired color story on the inside. Super duper fun, bright colors. This is the Martine Cosmetics Nitro Speed, something like that. I can't remember exactly, but it's like fast cars, and I'm here for it. Sigma Angela Bright. Angela Bright is so beautiful, so talented. She does gorgeous eye looks, and I think she did a great job on her Sigma palette. Really, truly, it is beautiful, and it's very Angela. Clionadh Cosmetics Deep Sea Treasures, another beautiful palette. This one is full of multi-chromes. I'm just going to swatch a couple of these really quickly for you so you can kind of see how they look. Very, very smooth swatches. Very smooth, very pigmented and beautiful. And then here are the shifts in the mirror. GlamLite Ghostface Lives. This is a cool toned color story that I absolutely love. And then we'll look at these Oden's Eye palettes. This is the Jewels and Gem palette. I think this is gorgeous. Beautiful, beautiful eyeshadows inside. Really sparkly. The mattes are high quality. Everything about this Oden's Eye palette is great. I feel the same way about the Stone and Rock palette from Oden's Eye. Beautiful mattes. The shimmers are great. It even has a multi-chrome in here, and this palette is such a hit for me. But Simply Posh released their Citrus Punch, and I think this color story is great. They are reformulating it because some of the shadows were hard pressed for some people. I really love my palette. This is recently influenced. I had to laugh because she has the ring light. I'm using a ring light. I don't use one to film my makeup, but I did for this kind of overhead type of shot. I love this palette so, so much. And then we have a collaboration with Ellie Starr and Brittany Huffman. This is an all matte palette. It is massive. It is heavy. They are all magnetic shadows. ABH Cosmos palettes. This is gorgeous. ABH really stepped up the quality with this one and gave us some fun mattes and beautiful textures of shimmers. Next, this is the Fall Romance palette. I also really like this one. I think the color story is beautiful in here. They did a really good job. I think the formula of everything is really nice as well. And then we have one of Too Faced's best palettes. This is their Italian Spritz palette. It has gorgeous colors. It has gorgeous mattes. All of the shades in here performed just beautifully on the eyes. I really can't say enough good things about it. So let's talk about Don't Be Jelly. This is the current version from Unearthly, and we do have beautiful, beautiful shadows inside. I think this is such a good palette from Unearthly, and I'm so, so happy to own it. It's really incredible. Got a couple swatches for you from the palette right there, and then we're going to look at Crystal Lake Camp Council. I want to get my words all twisted when I talk about this palette, but this is their Friday the 13th palette. Really dark and deep and grungy and beautiful, but let's talk about their Rick and Morty palette because this is one of my favorite palettes from GlamLite. It's super bright, super colorful, over the top fun, and it has a really, really beautiful formula from GlamLite. So let's swatch this orangey shade right here. I love this orange color. Crystal Skies is a collaboration with Shifty Shadow and Ensley Rain. It's a beautiful pastel sparkle palette. This Lands of Enchantment palette is one of my favorite palettes, if not my absolute favorite palette from Ensley Rain. I love this color story. I love that we have dark shades and light shades. I love that we have special shimmer shades. I love how perfect it is. Sugar and Grunge from Blend Bunny. This palette does not exist anymore. They don't make this one anymore, but I think it was beautiful. I really liked the color story of this. This is Blend Bunny Sickly Sweet. This is their pastel palette. Really pigmented, great Blend Bunny quality, and perfect for Halloween candy vibes. Machina, however you say it, palette from Blend Bunny. Grungy, cool. This one launched late last year. Smoky Glam from BellaBeauteBar. There's no way I'm going to capture the cover of the palette on camera. It's just too shiny, but this is a beautiful, romantic, kind of garden-inspired type of palette for me. Warriors Wear Pink from Gourmande Girls. I think they did such a great job on this one, supporting a friend of the owner of Gourmande Girls who is going through breast cancer. So I think this is a very special palette. Next, we have this one from Natasha Denona. This is the Mini My Dream palette. Of course, I love Natasha Denona, so what more can I say? This I Need a Nude palette. So cute. If you love nude shades and want this, it's great. Twisted Tea Party from Ensley Rain, such a cool cover. And then looking at the inside of this palette, we have really beautiful shades. They are all magnetic, and if you look at the background of the palette, you can see the Cheshire Cat, which I think is cool. Like, it's a little detail that I think is pretty impressive. I appreciate it. Oden's Eye Hey Reindeer. I like this palette. I think this is a great palette. It has kind of this retro vibe type of color story that's really, really pretty. Every single shade in here I think is absolutely beautiful. I also love the Snow Dream palette. These launched at the same time. They were Oden's Eye's holiday palettes for last year. I love how light this palette is. I think it's just very soft and wintry. The Gothic palette from Cosmic Brushes is really beautiful. I liked seeing them do this kind of smaller format, and who doesn't love a good purple shadow? Delicious Delights from Cosmic Brushes. This is kind of their pastel palette, but I like that they threw in some bright, bold pops of color and a deep dark purple. Hot Mess Mama MD's collab right here, and then we've got Full Fantasy from Lunar Beauty and Laura Lee Los Angeles. I really liked seeing these two brands come together, and I think they gave us a beautiful neutrals with a twist type of color story. The Sirens palette from Jolie Beauty, super beautiful. I really liked the color story of this one. I think they did a great job. Natasha Denona Yucca. I love Natasha Denona. Like, I love this brand. I love this color story. My olive skin loves these shadows. I don't know, like, everything about this palette I absolutely love. And then we have the Xenon palette, which is gray and more gray. Gourmande Girls and Doodles by the Bunny did the Nightshade palette. Really pretty, another kind of Halloween-y palette. And then we have Haunted, of course, like this ghost palette. Super duper cute. This is another one with Doodles by the Bunny. And then on the inside, you see it's this fun yellowy, purpley color story. Then we're going to go into Nomad Cosmetics Okavango Safari. So this is a safari themed color story. Really gorgeous. Ensley Rain updated this Strawberry Moon packaging. We will see that later on, but this is kind of the first version. I'm sorry, they didn't update the packaging. They updated the shades, but I love this. This was Ensley Rain favorite for me for a long time. This is their Harvest Moon palette, again from Ensley Rain. Really, really beautiful. You've got to see this color story because I think they did a great job with these shadows. You have beautiful sparkly shades and you have this gorgeous selection of mattes. This is the Cold Moon palette. This is Ensley Rain's Cold Tone Neutral palette. I've been talking for a long time, y'all. I am so sorry if I start getting my words twisted, but I love this palette. Then we have the Tarte Maneater. I can't remember if this one is the After Dark or not, but again, it looks like a laptop, but the shades inside are really nice. Like, I think this is a great palette. We have the Flora palette from Ace Beaute. I hated the layout, like the pan shape of this palette, but really liked this palette quality and color story. The same with Begonia. I just don't like these really long pans. They're just hard to get a brush in, but I do think overall the palette is super duper pretty. We have the Moolah palette from Martine Cosmetics, the kind of green golds that are really, really beautiful. And then after that, we are going to look at the Nomad Royal Europe palette. Beautiful mattes and beautiful multi-chromes in this palette for sure. I've got the Nomad Venice palette. It's Romeo and Juliet. I can't remember the exact city, but it's two halves, Romeo and Juliet, Love and Death. And then we'll go into the Blend Bunny Lure palette. This is another gorgeous Blend Bunny palette. They make such beautiful shadows. Let's do a really quick swatch of this shade right here, because this is like a multi-chrome, multi-pigmented shade that's really beautiful, really intense. And then we will look at BellaBeauteBar Pastel Garden. This one is so pretty. All the pastels you could ever want. It is a massive palette, but you can see it's really, really pretty too. Then we have Blend Bunny Lure. No, Trove. This goes with the Lure palette. It is the Trove palette. Look at those multi-chromes. I mean, absolutely gorgeous. I really like that they did a quad of multi-chromes. I think that's super beautiful. So I'm just going to swatch that on my hand, and then I'm going to do my best to show you kind of the shift of green into the mirror. Really beautiful. This is another one of those little Pat McGrath palettes. I have the Lost in Wonderland palette from ColourPop. This was their Alice in Wonderland palette. I thought this was a great palette. I liked the pastels in here. And then we have the Snow White palette, Dreams Come True. And I think the color story was pretty true to the movie. They did a good job with this one for me. This one right here is the Phantom Thieves Game Beauty palette. I liked this one. I thought the color story was fun. It was bright. It was vibrant. But this Metaverse palette I liked even better. But it's probably because the colors are much more up my alley. I really like these types of shades. Let's talk about the Fantasy Cosmetica Rogue palette. This is a great palette, super duper beautiful. Now, they have updated the packaging on this one as well. So here is the newer packaging right there. It's a little more vibrant, a little more precise, super duper cute, but you can see on the inside it is the same as the other palette. Let me take off that little plastic cover and let me put these side by side so that you can see how these are, yeah, the same palette. We have the Natasha Denona Love Face palette, super beautiful. And then we have the Adept Cosmetics Inspired palette. This one I love too. Like, I think this is such a great palette. Look at the shift in the mirror. Of course, for this one, I need to do a little swatch too. What can I say? I just cannot help myself, y'all. I really can't. I don't know. I'm not even going to try anymore. We're going to continue on with Adept and La Cienega. This is their neutral palette where they gave us some more mattes and they still gave us multi-chrome and shimmer shade. Then we're going into Cosmic Brushes, the Muse palette. This is a beautiful palette, very soft shades, really beautiful though. I enjoyed this one a lot. Milk Cosmetics Electric palette. This one is super cute, bright, fun, vibrant colors. Glaminatrix Into the Night. This is very colorful, but also super duper beautiful. I really like these shades a lot. I like Glaminatrix. I've already said that. Let's move on to Surrender from Unearthly Cosmetics. This was in their Valentine's Day mystery box. I like this palette. I really wish this was permanent to the line. I do like the mix of mattes and colorful shades that we have here. This is Wicked Widow Beauty. This is their Scissorhands 2 palette. So super beautiful. I really liked this color story. I think it was unique. It's different from other things I have, and I always appreciate that. So I'm going to dip right in here just to a couple shades and do a quick little hand swatch for y'all. You can see that their shadows are very smooth, very impactful and beautiful. Sigma and Ann Nook. This is a professional artist type of palette is the vibe that I get from this one. Really pretty. I think Ann Nook is so insanely talented and I'm super excited for her. These palettes from Sigma are the 9 pans. So this one has a really, really cute color story. We've got this beachy palette right here. I like the blues and neutral type of tones that we get in this one. I think the blues work really beautiful. I mean, work really beautifully. There we go. That would be the correct way to say that. This shade right here is super pretty, New Wave. Let me just give you a little swatch of that one because I do really like this shade. I'm gonna swatch it right there for you. Next, we'll look at the Spicy eyeshadow palette from Sigma. So these all have a clear cover, so you can kind of see what's inside if you're looking through your makeup bag, something like that. But I really like the Ritzy. I think it has these beautiful, beautiful gold undertones to it, really nice shades, and I really like the looks that I create with this. And then last but not least out of this series is the Earthy palette that has these kind of neutral earthy tones. Scooby-Doo and GlamLite, the large palette. This is really cute. Each character kind of got their own column of colors. I thought that was super fun and super creative. Next, we have Arttitude Cosmetics Maneater palette. This color story is so attractive to me. I love the mix of shades that they chose, and I think they did a great job. Quality, everything. The classic autumn palette from DeDe's Signature. The shades in here are so beautiful. Again, I do favor the shimmer metallic shades in here. I'm going to give you a swatch so you can see how pigmented and how impactful these are. Next, we have the Jingle Bell Ruby palette. This was their Christmas palette, so it's kind of reds and greens and cute, right? This is the Wicked Widow Beauty Tea Time palette. Really fun selection of shades. I think they did such a good job with this one. I like it a lot. And then we have some quads from Sigma. This is the Caramel Apple quad. Then we have the Creme Brulee quad, where you have this little mix of like neutral brown tones. This is the Peach Pie quad. Then we have Bonbon, really beautiful soft shadows inside of these. And we have the Blueberry Parfait. I like this because this is like a blue-gray type of shadow. Let me give you a little bit of a swatch. It's definitely like darker, but it has that blue undertone to it, kind of when the light hits it just right. I don't know. I thought that was kind of unexpected and pretty. And then last but not least, we have the Tiramisu palette. These three palettes from Martine Cosmetics are all mini palettes. So these are 6-pan palettes. We have a cool tone gray one, and then we have this one that is more pinky type tones, really soft, really cute. I think perfect for on the go. And this one right here is more bronzy golden tones. I liked seeing something different from the brand. This is Salem Cosmetics Smink Barode collab, and this is Forest Heart. Really beautiful mix of colors. They did a great job here. Divaroon Cosmetics first palette launch, the Moth and the Moon. Absolutely stunningly beautiful. And then we're going to go into Dragon's Eye from What's Up Beauty. This is my favorite palette. They've only done 3 palettes so far, but this one is my favorite. These shades are gorgeous, and of course, I'm the mother of dragons, so you know I love these shades. This is Touch of Glam, not your basic batch palette. So these are all shadows. I have to really articulate myself to not get my words twisted. Extravaganza Ganja from Trixie. And then we have DeDe Signature Plum Perfection Quad. Let me open it up so you can see these shades. This is the Natasha Denona. I forget which one this is. Pretty though, right? Berry Icy from Simply Posh. So cute. And that is going to take us into the year 2024. This year, we're going to look at these palettes. This is the Groundwork Blooming Romance palette from Denona. This is the first and only palette I have from the brand. I've had so much fun with it. I absolutely love Denona. And then we're going to look at the Get Stoned palette. Y'all, don't sleep on this brand. I'm not saying you need to buy it, but I'm just saying I'm happy I bought it. These are all special shimmer sparkle shades. So fun. Of course, I'm going to give you a little swatch right over here, and then we're going to talk about Adept Cosmetics and Amy. Uploaded a video recently mixing mine and Amy's palettes. There's no secret, I love this palette. It is a cool tone dream. Amy did an amazing job, and I think we need to swatch a couple of shades. Of course, I'm going to swatch Indie. Like, it's like one of the stars of this palette. I say one of because there are so many. Like, she really, really put her heart into this palette, and it's so evident. I mean, look at that swatch right there. Let's talk about the Adept Cosmetics Flying Fiddles palette. This is like a grungy neutral palette, and I think it's so beautiful. Of course, Adept makes incredible shimmer, sparkly shadows, and this one is just so beautiful to me. So we're just going to do light swatches, you know, look at that shade, look at the shine on it. I think it's incredibly gorgeous, both of these. And then we're going to talk about Cyborg Choir. Cyborg Choir is really cool, really different, really fun. I like the matte shades that Adept chose to put in this palette. I think it really complements all the special sparkle shades that we have going on. So we're just going to swatch a couple of these shadows. You know, why not? Look at that right there. You can really see the sparkle. There we go. I'm like, let my camera focus, and you can definitely see. I'm going to do a swatch right here as well. And then because I can't help it, we're just going to do one more. Okay, we got to swatch this one. Look at it. It just glides on so beautifully. But let's talk about this Game Beauty collection. This is really cool. I really like that they did quads. I think it takes a lot of creativity to do an interesting quad, and Game Beauty did that with these. They didn't give us like monochromatic quads. They gave us fun and interesting color stories. So I'm just going to do a swatch of this shade so you can see, because it's kind of this duochrome-esque type of shade, you see. And then the Maria quad is really pretty as well, with the blues, the yellows, and the browns. Then we have the Culturals palette from Cosmic Brushes. These just launched, and I believe it's still available, so I'm not going to spend too much time talking about it, because I know that I did a whole video on it recently, this one and the other, but I do want to put a swatch down for you, because like I said, some palettes, I just can't help myself but to swatch them. Like they scream for me to like play. Look at that. Isn't that pretty? I really like it. I think Cosmic Brushes does amazing palettes at a great price point. This is my personal favorite of the two new ones that launched. This is Neutrals. And then we're going to talk about DeDe Signature Sweet Aesthetics. This is an all matte palette. I did do a look in one of my haul videos with this if you want to check it out. They also launched the Ultimate Cappuccino palette, and this is really pretty. Again, I do really like these shimmers from DeDe Signature. The other palette that they launched this year is the Blooming Basket palette. This is a lot more of a colorful palette than the other two. Super pretty. We have Klarity Cosmetics Forbidden Love. I love this color story. I love the look that I did with this palette. I thought it was so pretty. And their newest palette, Return to the Sea. These next three are a part of their collection, like all types of mermaid vibes, this one being very light. And then we have Mermazing. This one is so pretty. I just love purples and blues together. This is the Lost Kingdom palette. Really sparkly. So again, it's calling to me. I've got to dip my fingers in. I've got to swatch this one. Oh, look at that. Look at it. Look at it. That's so pretty. I'm just going to smooth it out a little bit. And then we're going to talk about Dewdrops from Divaroon. Divaroon is a brand owned by M. Jones over on Instagram. I want to give a little swatch of this shadow too. This is a newer brand, just launched last year, and I think they're doing some really cool stuff. I'm excited to see what they have in store for the rest of the year, because this one was so cute. This is Unearthly Cosmetics Charmer. This is a very interesting color story, very pretty. I like that it is half mattes and then half shimmer special shades. I think that makes it really cool and interesting. And then we have the High Temp palette. This palette is actually available now. It launched early, so I will have Unearthly linked in the description box. And you can see this is a very warm color story. They also launched Spring Magic this year. I do have a look up here on my channel with this one as well. This is a really gorgeous color story. I like this color scheme so much. Sigma Cool Neutrals. This palette made me so happy because it is cool neutrals. It's not just gray. And so often when brands put out cool palettes, it's just gray, but I like that they played with cool tones and different spectrums here. I really appreciated it. Natasha Denona Golden palette. This metallic gold packaging makes it so hard to get light on the palette this way, but I hope you can still see everything. This is the Fresh Prince GlamLite palette. Really great formula in here. The shimmers are so beautiful. They're creamy and pigmented and smooth, and I really like them. The Betty Boop is one of GlamLite's best palettes. This formula is phenomenal. It looks like it may be a monochromatic palette, but it's really not. It has a good mix of shades. You have some kind of like cool tone mattes. You have these more like red shades. You have some kind of pinky shades. Really, really interesting palette. And then this is the Kiss palette. So you have these 4 rows for the 4 band members. I thought that was super creative of GlamLite to do. This is Steph's Beauty Stash, the Nueva Vida palette. This is a collab she did with Gourmande girls, and she did a great job on this one. This is Makeup by Mario, and now that I'm thinking of it, I don't know when this palette launched. We're going to have it in 2024 because that's when I got the palette, but I think it actually launched last year, but this one did launch this year, the Neutrals. Ultraviolet, BellaBeauteBar, Deandra Nicole. Deandra, you did a great job with this palette. I love these purple tones, and BellaBeauteBar is a favorite brand. It launched the same time as this Dead Roses palette did for Valentine's Day, and this is kind of an anti-Valentine's Day themed palette, which I think is really fun. So I'm going to swatch this shadow because I can't help it. Y'all know, I can't go too long without dipping my fingers in the shadow, and that pink shade is so incredibly intense. Like, wow. And look at this multi-chrome. Let's put it right here on my hand because I just need to. Let's look at Secret Garden. This is a big palette from BellaBeauteBar. It is a lot of shades. It's not quite as big as their pastel palette or the Smoky Glam, but it's still large and in charge, but you can move the shadows around in this one. I don't like to do that, but I know that's important to a lot of people. So I'll just highlight that for y'all in case you were curious. Look at that sparkly swatch right there. I've got to do one more. Wait. Look at this. Watch. Do you see? It's so pretty. Oh, it's so pretty. This is another launch from Divaroon. This is Gloomy Gardens. I think this is a really pretty color story too. This is a mostly mattes palette. And then we have Love is Blood. This is from Salem Cosmetics. So they launched a couple of palettes, I believe, at this time, and this is the one I received. We have Black Moxie Cosmetics. This is Trippy Shrooms palette. Is this not cool? It's hard to capture on camera because of the background, but the next few palettes are going to be ColourPop palettes. This is the 1111 palette. It's a really pretty neutral palette. And then we have Twilight. The Twilight palette. This is based on the movie Twilight, not the books Twilight, but the movie with that kind of blue-gray filter that everything has. You know what I'm talking about. Now let's move on to Beauty and the Beast from ColourPop. This is cute. I think this is very cute. I think a lot of people will get a lot of use out of this palette. I think it's very soft. It's very easy type of colors to work with if that's what you're looking for, but the packaging is absolutely beautiful. Now, the Precious Metals is one of ColourPop's best palettes for sure. I know it is neutral palettes, but I love that they mixed warm tones, cool tones, neutrals. They gave some beautiful mattes. They gave some beautiful metallics. They just really did good with that one. We have the Pokemon collab. This is so nostalgic for me. I mean, look at all the little Pokemon on the palette. Charmander and Bulbasaur and Squirtle and Pikachu. They're just so happy to be friends. And then we have a rainbow color story inside. It's so bright and fun. And I did a couple of looks with this on my channel. Moonshroom from Lunar Beauty. This may be one of my favorite color stories that Lunar Beauty has ever done. I really like this. I feel like it's very earthy and I feel inspired when I look at it. Let's talk about these palettes from Fantasy Cosmetica. These launched this year. Well, of course, I'm doing these by year, so of course, Heather. This is the Wizard palette. I like this color story. When I was playing and creating looks with this palette, I feel very inspired. This, though, Cradled in Ice. I'm telling you, you put a dragon on something and I just cannot resist it. Look how cute this is. Look how cute this is. So now I'm popping my codes on the screen, and I don't know if I said it in the intro or not, but those are affiliated codes and they'll save you some money at checkout. I'll also put them in the description box if you're curious about any of these. Let's talk about Electrum Cosmetics. This is the Heartbreaker palette. This was their Valentine's Day palette, or Valentine's Day timed launch, I should say. This has some really beautiful sparkly shades. You get a lot of intense shimmer and things like that in here. Let's swatch this shade right here on my hand. It's like a birthday type of color. At least that's how I feel when I look at it, like a birthday. This is Midnight Moth from Electrum Cosmetics. Really beautiful. Again, Electrum Cosmetics makes beautiful, beautiful shadows. And these pans are magnetic, so you can also move these around if you so choose. I'm going to swatch just a little bit. I know this is a new palette and I just swatched it in a video not too long ago, but I just want to dip my fingers in and play. Let's swatch it maybe right here. Yeah, that's a good spot for it. Nomad Cosmetics, this is more of their travel series. This is the Oslo palette. This is the Canadian Rockies palette. I'm trying to remember the names. This is the green one though. And then I know the Abu Dhabi palette, I think, is this one right here. This really warm type of color story. Well, I also have the Nomad New Zealand Stargazing palette, and this color story is really beautiful. I think this was a fun release from Nomad. They've been doing a lot this year. Like it's June, but they're on a roll. So those swatches are super beautiful, and I really thought this palette was a good one. They gave us a Ireland palette for St. Patrick's Day, and you know, they stayed on theme. It is green, 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 and I'm here for it. You know, I love when a brand picks a theme. Let's talk about the Blend Bunny Ellis Atlantis palette. This is Blend Bunny's first creator collaboration, so I thought that was really, really cool. And then, you know, Melt Cosmetics, they love smoke sessions, so this is Smoke Sessions Part 2. I did buy this on launch day and have the full collection. I'm into it. This is Glaminatrix Pretty in Pastels. This palette is very pastel, but then we do have those 4 deep dark shades at the bottom, so you can get a little more versatility than just pastel with this. Reckless Romance from Beauty Bay. This palette, I like the quality, but I don't find myself reaching for this color story a ton. Coastal from Simply Posh. Absolutely beautiful. I love the tones in here. I love the looks I created. They really nailed it with this. I'm so into it. And I know these are singles from Oden's Eye, but I have them with my palettes. They launched this year, so I wanted to go ahead and include them because I have them all put together in a palette. And I do have a whole video where I'm swatching everything and I have the names and all of that in one of my weekly hauls. You can definitely check that out. But I just love Oden's Eye and I love these sparkly shades. This is 2 palettes from Wicked Widow Beauty that launched this year. We have the Lovesick palette. This one is cute, but I really like when Wicked Widow gives us some really deep shades too, and these were overall pretty mid-tone, but very pretty. And then the Crow palette. This is so pretty. I posted a tutorial, I think, over on Instagram with this palette. It's super, super cool. But this is the newly revamped Strawberry Moon palette from Ensley Rain. They made this fit in with the rest of their line. They changed out a couple of the shades. Still great, beautiful Ensley Rain quality. And I'm just going to swatch a shade right there, and right there because they're so beautiful. It's just so fun to look at and to swatch and everything like that. So next we have the Groovy Garden palette. Oh, it's so pretty. It's so like retro and vibey, and I'm here for it. Look at that warm shade. It's so gorgeous. I'll also have the Flower Moon palette. Let me show you this one because I think the packaging is so cute. I love the little mushrooms, and then inside of the palette is just as pretty. I love the mattes and I love the shimmers, and I'm looking, let me swatch it where here? Yeah, right there. That'll work. That will work. I want to show you these in the mirror just so you can kind of see some of the swatches of these shades. So beautiful. I love Ensley Rain, but their newest launch is the Cosmic Dreamer palette. I really like these shades. This is a large, colorful palette. Lots of different options in here. Plenty to choose from. You can kind of go row by row if you want to. I find that to be like a really pretty selection of colors if you just want to stick with those 5 colors. Or you can kind of jump all around the palette. It just depends on what type of vibe you're going for. Oden's Eye did a collab with Judy round 2. Her palette is a beautiful pastel palette. They also did a round 2 collab with Annette. This is the Mighty Monster palette, and Annette went for more bright colors in this one. I think it's really pretty, and it's in that great Oden's Eye formula. They also did a part 2 with Tina. This is the Earthwood palette. I think it's so cool that they still included the hummingbird on the palette, like a callback to her first collab. And then we have Nomad's newest launch. This is the Florida Keys palette. It is bright, bright, bright shades. Clionadh, this is singles that launched this year. I had it with my palettes, so I thought, you know what? Let me just grab it. Let me just grab it. Let me just swatch this shade for you. Why not? I'm already like neck deep in eyeshadow. Let me show you these two. The Natasha Denona Hyper whatever palette. This one, good, but I'm not a huge fan. Last but not least, Unearthly Cosmetics Dreamer palette. Y'all, I had so much fun with this. I really, really, really enjoyed going through my collection, sharing it, swatching it, pulling it out. Now I need to reorganize because everything is a mess on the floor. Shelves. I need to go through all of this stuff. I just had so much fun sharing it with y'all. I will show you what is on my eyes today, and that is this Surat Beyond Beige Quad. Very simple look for our whole eyeshadow palette collection that we did today. But if you enjoyed this, I would love it if you would subscribe. I love makeup. I have a ton of makeup. We can definitely do this with the rest of my collection. If you want to see it, just let me know. But I'm going to pop up some videos for you in case you want to stick around, hang out with me, because I love talking about makeup.